And Dr. Shawn Baker is here today as well. We are coming to you with I think our 12th episode of Healing America and Beyond. And this is a podcast where we talk about health and wellness and fitness and being proactive and getting outside of the mainstream narrative and mindset when it comes to taking charge of your own health and that of your family and your loved ones. And today we've got an action packed show. We're going to talk about some great things. And as always, we will try to take some questions at the end. And we want you to hold those questions. So please say hello as you're coming in. Let us know where you're coming from in the chat. This is a live stream. If you come in after the fact and you're watching the replay, welcome to that. Please drop a comment with any comments that you have on the show. Always, we are welcome. You're welcome to follow, like, subscribe. That helps to get the word out to other people. And please, when you do ask questions, preface it with a QQQ, triple Q, but wait until we open to questions. We'll miss your question if you do it now in the beginning. Dr. Baker is doing some retweeting right now. So he's here. He's just kind of taking care of some housekeeping. And I can't believe that we are coming into a new year, 2026. It's amazing. We have some great things lined up for you. Dr. Baker's working on a new book. I'm not working on a book, but maybe I should. I've had some amazing health transformations from some of the decisions that I've made with my diet and lifestyle. I've been able to help my dad, who's elderly, with diet and lifestyle. And so, if you're looking for solutions that are outside of the big medical or pharma or big food industrial complex, this could be the place for you. And we hope that you enjoy this conversation that we're having today. While we're waiting for Dr. Baker, I will remind you that he does have a wonderful opportunity for people who are looking to make some changes and maybe get some answers that you haven't been able to get from the traditional path. And that's at Rivero.com. And he and his team are there to connect with you. This is end of year. Some of you maybe have some health savings funds that you want to use in a productive way, and maybe you have to use it by a certain date. Definitely look over to Rivero.com and see if that might be a good fit for you. Hi, Dr. Baker. Good to see you.
Oh yeah, hey, good to see you as well. Yeah. It's like
Yes.
I said, end of the year, Christmas, New Year's, and then the inevitable New Year's resolution. It's kind of one of those things where every year, and this is a thing. If the holidays mess you up, then it's really you just don't have the basic background sort of habits that are going to protect you. You should be able to make it through the holidays, maybe even go off plan for a day or so and be fine. For most people, if you truly are healthy, it's not one day is not going to kill you. But for many people it does. And we spend, Halloween comes, and then Thanksgiving, and then New Year's and Christmas and everything in between. And then a lot of us put on 5-10 pounds of excess body fat. And then, we do a New Year's resolution, and maybe we get it off by March. And then by April, we're back to our old habits, and we really haven't changed anything. We're just kind of this perpetual cycle. And I think that's something that can be addressed. And, there's a point where some people, not all people, but some people figure it out, and they develop this sort of healthy pattern, and they kind of get set for life for the most part. And that's what I do basically every day with our patients at Rivero. When the nice thing is I get to talk to all the patients, which is really fun for me. I get to see them, I see them, we have an online meeting a couple times a week. And so anybody that wants to come, we can chat. And that it really is, it's not just getting rid of disease and getting health, getting your health back, but it's like, how do you maintain that? And that's the real challenge, I think. And so that takes consistency, and it takes, effort, and it takes, building upon success, and it takes habit building, and it takes, a lot of times it takes support. That's the thing. And a lot of people don't have the support. So that's what we provide. We provide the educated support, the guidance, the direction, the education, the physician. That's a nice thing, is having a physician that actually gets this. And particularly if you're dealing with health issues, because you want a physician that, wants to go this way. It's real easy just to shoot out write a prescription, click a button, send a drug to your pharmacy, and That's the
Yeah.
easy way to do medicine. It's not the right way to do medicine in my view. But anyway,
I agree. One of the biggest complaints I hear from people who are starting to wake up to what's going on in the industry is that you don't actually get to talk to the doctor. They might come in and look at you for, a few seconds. They're not really familiar with your case. They might write a prescription, but you don't really have that one-on-one relationship that people were used to even 20 years ago. And, it's like an assembly line, and everything is driven by insurance and payments and payouts and things like that. And so that relationship where you feel seen and heard and valued as a patient, that just isn't happening in the system that we are in on what I would call I call it the medical industrial complex. Some people have other words for it, but it's, the insurance-based, insurance dictated, insurance driven, pharma driven model. And people are really waking up to that, and they're realizing this actually isn't solving a problem. In fact, it's maybe creating more problems. And that's where plans like Rivero come in. And one of the things that I think is worth noting is that when people talk about insurance, when they talk about getting insurance plans, it used to be that you could get what was called a catastrophic plan. You could pay a little bit every month in the in the off chance that something catastrophic happened. I think they even called it hospitalization policy, right? And now it seems like that's not necessarily an option, and people are pushed into these plans where they're paying, in some cases, thousands a month, and then they still end up having a deductible. They still end up having a minimum out of pocket, and it's all just so that they can be funneled into that system where they're waiting 6 months for an appointment, and then they don't have a solution. In fact, they may have more problems than they started with because of what they're being given when they do get in. And so, when it comes to what you're doing and what functional medicine practices and things like that are doing, they're doing more of a subscription model where it's proactive, where it's functional, where it's root cause based. And the people are actually getting solutions and finding themselves getting healthier, reversing metabolic issues. And, they're spending maybe the same amount or less than they'd be spending for the insurance policy, and they're getting healthier. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that because, you know, I think if people start to move away from that mindset, and my analogy that I always use is if you expect to have all of your routine maintenance on your car provided for by your insurance, that just doesn't make sense. And yet people expect their health insurance to cover all of their routine maintenance when really that should be a personal responsibility job. That should be your job to take care of your personal routine maintenance and your overall preventive maintenance. What do you think about that?
well, yeah, I mean, the health insurance system as it currently stands, for the most part, benefits a very few percentage of the population, really the people that are very sick, and everyone else is really picking up the bill for that. I mean, that's the reality. And I mean, and is it fair? I mean, people say, well, we need to be able to take care of these people that are really sick because
Mhm.
they're sick, and that's the right thing to do, right? That's the good Christian thing to do, or the good, just a good thing to do is provide for those people. But the reality is that um, for most people out there, I mean, I like never use my health insurance, but yet I pay thousands of dollars every year just in case
Yeah.
something bad were to happen to me, in a car wreck or something, God forbid, health wise happens. So you have it there, but that really is not really providing me much of a benefit. And I do a lot to maintain my own health. I exercise, I sleep well, I eat well. I do the things, manage my stress, get out in the sun, all the things I talk about. I do those things. I walk the walk for sure. And I think what we're seeing is, as you and I were talking off camera, I think the administration just passed a new, and I haven't seen the details on this, allowing for more sort of cooperative type groups, so you can kind of buy into these lower risk pools so that your prices come down. And we've seen like companies like Crowd Health, who I think is doing a wonderful job. Amy
Mhm.
Schoonover, the CEO of that, friend of mine. This is the thing, but to get into those, you got to be relatively healthy. You can't walk in there with 300 pounds overweight and on 16 medications. You're not going to make it.
Mhm.
So the question is, well, how do you get there? And then that's where you've got to put in the work and the effort and have a team.
Mm.
That's one thing. Like I said, we do at Rivera. We get sick people so they can get healthy, and then maybe they can afford these less expensive health insurance. It's a
Mhm.
long term win
Mhm.
win situation. But
Yeah.
the health insurance company, the only way they make profit is they don't get profit for having healthy people. Their profit is incentivized by healthcare being really, really, really expensive. I mean, that's a sad reality of the
Mhm.
Affordable Care Act. It's turned that into that. So the only way the health insurance industry can make any money is if healthcare itself becomes very, very expensive, and that's what they do. And they facilitate it. Yeah, it's like, okay, we've all seen our insurance premiums go up
Mhm.
ridiculously high over the last decade or so. I mean, it's just crazy. It's like, and what do you get
Yeah.
for it? Mostly, it's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that you say that because I've seen videos recently of people saying that they need a procedure and they called to get the pricing. Let's say it's imaging or something like that. And, when they ask for the insurance price, they're quoted some astronomical price. But then if they say, "Oh, I don't have insurance," then all of a sudden the price goes down, which I think is interesting. And it's kind of more like something affordable, right? But the other thing that I think is interesting is that if you go back to the Affordable Care Act, one of the things that it was predicated on was that younger people under 30 would pay premiums and buy insurance because remember, they required you to have it and you would be penalized if you didn't. And so these younger people were counted in the money pool. And then they were opting out because nobody under 30 who's not sick and obese is thinking, "Hey, I need health insurance." That's just not top of mind. And, if they're 25 or under, they're usually on their parents' insurance. And so they weren't contributing. And a lot of them were willing, either intentionally or not, to take the hit of the penalty as opposed to getting the insurance. And so that left the Obamacare money pool completely upside down. And the money just didn't come in the way that whoever authored that counted on. That they didn't the math didn't math. And whether it was intentional or just stupid or both. Um, it's never been a system that's actually helped people, and the prices keep going up, the premiums keep going up, and people are sicker and sicker. They're way sicker now. We're sicker as a society now than we were when Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act was actually first implemented, you know? So and I remember back in 2018 when Trump had uh, the majority in the House and the Senate. And it was, they were going to repeal it. And then John McCain, like in the middle of the night, made the deciding vote to keep it Republican. So, I mean, it's just, it's crazy, but let's talk about good solutions, which is taking charge of your health, putting that money and focus into a lot of the solutions that you've found, that a lot of your listeners have found, and that is being proactive, taking the steps to change your health, to change the way that you think, to change the things that you put into your body. Um, yeah, let's talk about that because there are solutions. It's not easy, but it's definitely more of a contributor to longevity and a good standard of health as opposed to just living out your days on drugs, being artificially kept alive by pharmaceuticals.
Well, and that's an interesting thing because we have more and more drugs coming out. I mean, certainly the advent of the GLP-1s for weight loss has really kind of catapulted this, and you'll see more and more, and this, and the drugs will become more and more effective over time at reducing symptoms, and this is what they are. They become better and better band-aids, but they never really address the reason that you're sick in the first place. And I think that's a critical point here. Now, again, I think some of these drugs, if you stop eating junk food because you're on a drug, then you're kind of addressing the issue, right? Because you're not
Mhm.
no longer poisoning yourself, or you're limiting the poison. But the problem becomes that, at least in its current iteration, most people will not be able to stay on these drugs long term. There are exceptions, of course, but many people find the side effects, the cost, or whatever. And even though they're
Mhm.
attempting to bring the costs down, and this is the other thing that's interesting, these you've seen, Novo Nordisk, Eli Lilly, and some of the other ones voluntarily say we're going to lower our prices on these GLP-1s if you give us a Medicaid population, if you put us on the formulary there. And so what that does is it opens up a market of millions and millions of new customers to them, and then they're under no obligation to keep the prices low. I mean, this is a trend. This is all voluntary. There's no legislative mandates. It's just like, well, we're going to do that so we can gain favor, so we can get on the Medicaid rolls. And then, 3 years, 5 years from now, new administration's in office, they go back to their old tricks, which they already, you already see how
Mhm.
much the pharmaceutical industry controls our politics. I mean, when Kennedy was, being confirmed as HHS secretary, one of the promises he made is we're going to ban pharmaceutical ads on TV.
Mhm.
That ain't
Mhm.
going to happen now. Marty Macri at the FDA, not going to happen, right? Which is disappointing. It really is. There's no reason. And somebody said, well, it's because it's a free speech violation. It's a First Amendment violation. But I'm like, well, they banned smoking ads on TV. Not that I'm
Mhm.
pro smoking, but I mean, they said you're not allowed to advertise on TV anymore. Is that a First Amendment violation then, or what's the deal here? It's really because who controls the purse strings in Congress,
Mhm.
and through all branches of government and everywhere else in between. So the reality is we live in this pharmaceutical corporate controlled state, and that's just the reality of it. And if you don't want a part of that, you're going to have to figure it out outside of
Mhm.
that. Don't rely
Mhm.
on the government to do it for you.
Well,
And
yeah, one thing that came to my mind when you're talking about the big tobacco ads is Callie Means, was talking about this in an interview that was it Casey or Callie? Callie, the guy, the brother. He was they like the parents mixed up their names. The boy should be Casey and the girl should be Callie, but they mixed it up. So
yeah,
the anyway, so am I wrong about that? So he said that, as a lobbyist, it was one of the things that changed when big tobacco was taken out of that space, when they were no longer allowed to advertise. They then shifted to food. So basically the big tobacco lobby
right, yeah.
shifted its attention to big sugar and big food. And I think that I would probably guess that big pharma is now has a finger in that pie. And that's a big reason that they're lobbying so hard to prevent that from being removed from the airwaves. I don't think it has anything to do with free speech, obviously. And look at some of the politicians who are in their pockets, Republican, Democrat. It's not a partisan thing. They're making big
No,
money.
I mean they're all taking part. I mean
Yeah.
there's for every member of congressman there are three federal lobbyists. So there's like 15,
Yeah.
1700 federal lobbyists, which is a lot of money. They spend more money than any
Mhm.
other industry on federal lobbying by
Mhm.
far. There's
Yeah.
nothing even
Yeah.
close to pharmaceutical
Yeah,
influence. So.
and I think yeah, so we have to keep that in mind, and when you are at a doctor, one of these more traditional, that always has to be in the back of your mind, is that, who's paying for this and who benefits? Like, what am I being told? What am I being sold? And who benefits? And if you're not the one benefiting, then if it were me, I'm not telling people what to do. Disclaimer, this is not medical advice. Dr. Baker's not your doctor. He's not diagnosing, treating, anything like that. This is just educational. But if it were me, and I see a doctor who's pushing pharmaceuticals, then I'm gonna think long and hard about following that plan, because I have to ask, like, what's in it for them? What's in it for me? But I wanted to ask you about something that you mentioned. So you mentioned the GLP-1, and it seems like it's a big part of the conversation now. But I think that there may be people who don't really understand what that is and what the mechanism is. Also, so could you explain that? But also explain how switching to a carnivore diet and a high fat diet, animal based, can actually have the same effect on the GLP-1 receptors than if you took a peptide or agonist, something exogenous. Can you explain that?
Yeah, sure. So GLP-1 is what's known as an incretin hormone. We have a couple of them in our gut. One is called GLP-1. One is also called GIP. It used to be called gastric inhibitory peptide.
Mhm.
It's now glucose dependent insulinotropic polypeptide. It's a long fancy name. Basically, what it means is it works in the presence of blood glucose. And so what stimulates that is food, fat, protein, and to a lesser degree carbohydrate. And so the way these you know uh, hormones work in the body naturally is, you consume food and it makes you full, right? Which makes
Right.
sense, right? I mean, and it does through a numerous routes, through insulin signaling, through impact on the brain, and so on and so forth. And some foods are inherently more satiating and appetite suppressing than are others, and the carnivore diet tends to do that very nicely. A lot of people will notice that they're just desire to be hungry all the time, to think about food, and the GLP-1 people are talking about food noise, where you're constantly ruminating and thinking about and perseverating on when's your next meal, and you're constantly thinking about food all the time.
Mhm.
This allows you to be free of that. The drugs do something similarly, although with greater costs, with greater side effects, with greater potential negative outcomes for many people, not all, but for many. And it's not just GLP-1. There's, like I said, the GIP, the glucagon, which is also part of that system. They're all, they're coming out with these multi-acting drugs right now, and they're trying to lessen the side effects. And over time, I think they probably will be more successful with that. I mean, there's no
Mhm.
doubt these drugs will make hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars worldwide. Is what this is what'll happen at the end of the day. Now,
Yeah.
anything, and this is something that I think is wise to understand. Anytime a new drug or procedure or something comes out, the upside is always oversold and the downside is always de-emphasized. And so whatever they tell you, it's half as beneficial as they say it is, and it's twice as bad as they say it isn't. So, I mean, you have to realize that. I mean, that just happens over and over again. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt. And, you know, but it makes a lot of money. And so this is,
Mhm.
this is a reason for, why we have such a, just general acceptance of stuff. It's marketed very heavily. I know Marty Macri at the FDA is talking about how fast we can get drugs through now, and
Mhm.
I'm not so excited about that, to be honest. I mean, it's interesting that it's good that the FDA is looking at changing the food guide a little bit. It's um, you know helpful in that situation. But again, this is a point, if you are dependent upon drugs for your health, you're kind of a slave in a way. It's kind of like
Mhm. Mhm.
you have to participate. You don't have a choice anymore. And the more and further dependent you become on these drugs, the more disempowered you become as an individual, the less independence you have, if that's important to you. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
We're all dependent upon the electrical grid. We're all dependent upon having fuel on our vehicles. And I mean, there's things we're dependent upon, but again, this is the most basic thing you have, is your own health, your own personal, what goes in and
Mhm.
out of your body. I mean, that becomes something that, if you're now dependent upon a system for that, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's kind of a little bit scary to think about it that way.
It is scary, and I think that if you look at were we talking about this last time, last show, polypharmacy in older adults, that how badly how awful that is? I mean, there's the studies have been done. Maybe I was reading it somewhere, but the point is that they consider older adults anybody over 55, so we're in that category, Dr. Baker,
Mhm. Yep.
that, prescribing multiple medications is actually strongly contraindicated, and the more medications, the more prescriptions you pile on, the worse the outcomes, which logically to you or me makes sense. And I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day, a lady who said that her dad had dementia and he had just had a broken bone and it was just a bad situation, right? And we were talking about prescriptions and he's 80 and she said, I think he's on about 20 prescriptions. I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Eh, eh,
I don't imagine. I know it. I've seen it. I've seen it multiple times. Take care of
mhm,
patients and beyond. You'd admit some lady with a broken hip to the hospital and take you 25 minutes to enter all their dang medications because they're on like 30 different medications. It's ridiculous. And you ask these people why they're on them, they don't even know. And the doctors don't know because the last doctor prescribed, so I'll just keep prescribing it, and it just gets in this endless cycle, and
mhm,
they have a new symptom. Well, they don't want to stop any medication, they just want to add more. So all of a
mhm,
sudden you get patients that are on, like I said, 10, 12, 15, 18, 27 medications. It's and the interactions are unknown because we don't have any data on that. You can say, yeah, we know these two meds don't play well together, but when you now have 15 medications mixed into the menu, you got who knows what's going on, what the possibilities are.
mhm. Yes, and I think that, I was looking this up because I wanted to make sure I'm not, pulling this out of thin air, because, prescription drugs are a significant cause of death in the West. And, adverse reactions, overdosing, misdosing, things like that. And I think people, again, are starting to be aware of this, but I think a lot of people aren't aware, and they don't understand that this is one of the leading causes of death is misprescribing or drug interactions like you're describing that are leading people to die and to be severely, ill and to have really bad outcomes. So, it's not there. I don't see anything good coming from it, from what they call polypharmacy in anybody, but especially in people in their 50s and older. It's just not it's not even close to being optimal. And yet it's a money machine. And a patient cured is a customer lost, right? And so that's the model, and that's unfortunate, but and so much of what is happening with people today is preventable, and it's preventable and it's reversible. And that is something that you guys are helping people with, is that they're able to reverse so much of the problems that they come to you with, because you're identifying the root cause. You're helping them to see what's actually happening in their bodies, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's one thing, and with regard to the medication, very often we are taking people off medications. With our Rivera patients, we are constantly
Mhm.
deprescribing medications because they don't need it anymore. When you actually address why someone's sick, and this is a question, if you go to your doctor and you start trying to dig into why am I sick,
Mhm.
and they can't give you a good answer. Well, we don't know, genetics, bad luck, you're old, or
Mhm.
something like it's a stupid answer. It's not really an answer, but what is actually why do I have this or that chronic disease? And the answer is, well, it's complicated. We don't know. It's genetic, bad luck, or something like that. Then
Mhm.
it's again, it's disempowering. You don't know, what can I do about this? Why can't I do something myself? You
Mhm.
become dependent upon a system that is not
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
to serve you in the best capacity that it can. It's there just to get you out the door
Mm.
with your prescription. And again, as I tell, I commented on this the other day. I mean, you see all these doctors that are just gleefully excited about the new drugs and all this stuff. What they don't realize is they are soon going to be, basically made extinct anyway through, some of the AI stuff, some of the, kind of robot type stuff. That's gonna go away. I might something glitched on my computer. Just I don't know if you saw that, but
You disappeared there for a minute.
yeah, I don't know. Like the screen shrunk up
So,
back. I don't know. Something happened.
yeah, it's Elon's coming after you. But, so, I think I wanted to ask you, when patients come to Ribero, do you see what type of awareness do you see, compared to, for example, people in, like, when you were practicing medicine at the more institutional level? Do you see a difference in the education level, the awareness level of people who are coming to Rivero?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our people get it. I mean, they understand that first of all, they understand that they have a big ability to impact their overall health outcome. Whereas people come to see me as an orthopedic surgeon, if they got a broken arm or a broken leg, I mean, there's, no amount of eating is going to fix that, correct? In many ways. I mean, it can help, but it's not going to deal with the problem. But a lot of people, um, they go to the doctor not because they want to, because they have to, and I think that's a difference. Our patients come to us because they want to be there. They want to get healthy. Whereas most of the time we end up going to the doctor's office because something bad has happened to us or we feel bad. And, we go
Mhm.
there seeking, some, like I said, typically it's usually some sort of Band-Aid type situation. I think we mostly know going into that, I'm in pain, give me a pain pill. I got an infection, give me an
Yeah.
antibiotic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that, works to a degree for some of these things. But I mean, when it comes to like,
Mhm.
again, these chronic diseases, you know, this is where the healthcare system falls down. I mean, I think everybody knows that at this point. The
Yeah.
sick care
Yeah.
system is
Yeah.
not designed to help us. And so, but yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, the people that I see on a daily basis, even in the comments, we got people talking that are more educated, and I think we're at a point
Mhm.
where if you want to get that information, it's much easier to access. There's so much,
Yeah.
um, compared to even 10 years ago. I mean, and then certainly like 30 or 40 years ago, where you
Mhm.
basically
Mhm.
had to trust the physician. You had no other
Yeah.
way of, looking things up, checking things up for themselves. I mean, these days you've got access to all the world's knowledge, the greatest degree of expertise at your own fingertips if you just know how to look and use things. And
Mhm.
so a lot of this stuff you can sort of conceptually figure out if you got enough basic reading comprehension, and can be a little bit patient with that. But a lot of times you just need the extra support that comes with it. I mean,
Mhm.
there's
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
education is great, knowledge is power, but you got to be able to act on it. And if you can't
Mhm.
act on it, doesn't do you any good.
I think that's really good, and, one of the things that I think too is helpful is AI. So, you said if you have reading comprehension, right, and you're doing research, well, it's amazing what you can find out by simply putting your lab work into Grok or ChatGPT and asking, "Give me a breakdown of what this means." And you can give a prompt. For example, say, "I want to understand this from a functional medicine viewpoint, not a big pharmaceutical viewpoint," things like that. And you can get a lot of information, a lot of breakdown. Whereas, 5, 10 years ago, you got your blood work, right? You go to the doctor, they take your blood work, somebody calls you and says, "Everything's normal." And you're like, "Okay, see you next year. Great. I just got, 5, 6 vials of blood drawn and that's all the information I have. Thanks." Or, your cholesterol's high, come in and get this pill. And you're like, "Great, thanks. That okay," right? And so we do have so much more access now. And then with, what you guys are doing over at Rivero, other functional medicine practitioners, there's so much more support and so much more community. Right now in the chat, we're seeing people who are talking to each other, giving people feedback. We're getting great testimonials about the way that people's health and lives have changed because of the information, for example, with your book, The Carnivore Diet, and your channel and the content that you put out. This is so much better than what we had access to even 10 years ago. And so, it's like with the media, right? They're not truly relevant anymore, and they're not the gatekeepers of information. And I think the same thing is true now. It's becoming more and more obvious in the medical space as well. So people are able to be more empowered with what choices they make for their health. And I think it's fantastic.
I would
Um,
let me just a word of caution for some people. And I see people talking about Grok and ChatGPT and so on things,
yeah.
so much so
Yeah.
forth, and they do give some good fundamental knowledge, basic understanding. I've asked, I've looked into and asked questions about this stuff that I have a very good understanding of, stuff that I like, even outside of medicine, sports and stuff like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
where they're clearly wrong. I mean, they're just like the answers are not
Okay.
correct. I've seen that over and over again. So you just have to be
Okay.
cautious. So what you want to do is you can get an answer, but then you might have to use multiple of these, large language models, these LLMs, and say, hey, see if there's a convergence on agreement on some of these things, because you can even ask the same question 2 days in a row and get a different answer.
Mm,
So it's kind of like, just be, uh, you know, don't take it at first, impression. I think you have to say, okay, let's dig into this a little more, understand it, teach
okay.
yourself, go back, ask the question different ways, verify through different sources. Because, and again, a lot of these things are trained on, depending on what, a lot of these things are trained on, what is it, Reddit forums and stuff like that. So some of that is, the input is a little bit questionable.
Mm,
Not that there's, you can't get good information from there. Um, but I would just say, like for instance, I'm out here running sprints, right? I'm like, okay, project my 100-meter time based on this 40-yard sprint. And they'll say, well, it looks like you should be able to run a, 11.2 second. And I'm like, there's no way in hell that's possible. It's like they're just like, they're just putting numbers that are just made up. It's just funny. And I think
mm,
Grok has actually been worse for that, to be honest, for
okay.
some reason, because I'll run it through Chat GPT and Grok, asking about athletic performance.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
it's just funny. I mean, I know there's errors in there, and there's a lot of people that have commented on that. And a lot of times they'll come back and say, like you'll ask the question with a little more information. Oh, this totally changes everything. One little
Mm,
variable. Oh,
okay,
everything's
okay.
changed now. So don't just, again, just, you can educate yourself a lot on this, but don't just stop with the first question, is what I would say.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. And I think, and this is coming from a doctor. And so, one of the things too that I've been learning about AI is you do have to, you can't go in blind, right? You have to educate the AI, and you have to know, have some idea of the way to prompt the AI. And we could go down a big rabbit hole on this, and I don't necessarily want to, but I think it is interesting that it is a new resource that people are starting to embrace. But
Well,
the
let me just
you have to
comment in here.
qualify, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you can go to a doctor, different doctors, and do the same thing, and
Mhm.
you'll get different answers from different doctors too. So I
Confirmation
mean,
bias.
it's like I said,
Yeah.
I don't think we have absolute truth in AI at this point. And, you
Right,
just got to take
right.
it with a grain of salt. You got to listen, common sense. Keep questioning, because it doesn't care if you question. If you go to a doctor and you keep questioning, the doctor's just going to get pissed off.
Mhm.
I don't know why you keep questioning me. I went to school for this,
Right.
but you can question the AI as long as you want. Clarify,
Mhm.
change, ask different AIs until you, are reasonably convinced, and then you still have to objectively verify yourself. You can't listen to me, you can't listen to Chat GPT, you can't listen to Mary. You got to objectively verify things in your own body, your own mind, your own sense, in the ability that you can. The nice thing about health is you can,
Mhm.
which I think is cool. I say
Yeah,
this about
yeah.
like climate change. I don't know. I got no clue. I can't verify any. People could tell me the world's getting warmer, it's getting colder. I don't know. It's summer, it's winter, it's cold, it's hot. I don't know. But with my own body, I know. I mean, I can, like, look, I'm not as fat as I was, or I'm faster, or I'm stronger, or I
Right.
feel better. That's the nice objective thing, that you have that in your own.
Mhm, mhm.
You can always do that.
So, yeah, okay, that's good. Thank you for clarifying that, um, and there are different AIs. So we don't wanna have a whole show about AI, but that's good to have that clarification, especially when we're talking to somebody who's, a specialist in a field.
Well, and
And
here's
you
the
said you've
but,
looked at it,
before I
right?
I just thought of this, and I think, and actually I touch on this in my new
Yeah.
book, actually. But more and more people will be discussing stuff with AI. Now, we already have a significant problem with how people have sort of stopped interacting socially, and we're communicating through text messages to other humans. Now we're going to take the human completely out of it, because if the other human's tired and doesn't want to talk, well, the AI doesn't care. It'll keep talking forever. So now you're going to
Mhm,
get people that are sucked farther and farther into this sort of isolationist, tech world.
mhm,
I just think about that. I just worry about, what is the purpose of humans going to be? What are we there
mhm.
for? I mean, what do we do? I mean, when all
Yeah.
everything we're surrounded by is tech and AI and robots, and everything's done for us, perhaps, or our
Mhm.
thinking is done for us. We don't even have to think anymore. I mean, it's just interesting to see where we're going as a species, and it's rapidly coming to a head. I think it's going to be, speeding up over the next,
Yeah.
few years.
I think though having a base of knowledge is always going to be critical. And one example that comes to mind is, as an English major, as a, former teacher, when these grammar programs came into vogue, you would have students plugging their essays into the grammar, correct, whatever it was, the word thing
Mhm.
on Microsoft Word. But the problem is, if they don't have a basic understanding of spelling and grammar, they don't understand the corrections that are being made. And so, there's only so far you can go relying on that tool if you don't have the basis, um, on which to ask and receive the answers. So I think that's really what we're getting at here. And so in that respect, I don't think we're going to be replaced anytime soon. I can see how in some areas that would be a bigger concern, but I think we're going to come around, back to more analog life. It's funny because I see a lot of younger people embracing much more of an analog kind of lifestyle. And so I think maybe the pendulum will swing and
You
then
know, it's funny you're seeing the analog lifestyle being embraced through technology, though, through social media. It's like, oh, look at me, I'm a traditionalist, I'm a homesteader, but I'm putting all my stuff on social media. It's kind of like, really?
well, yeah, that's true. That is a little a little bit of an oxymoron. But I also see in real life some of them, just leaving the phone at home, right? And so that in for real,
I haven't
you
seen it.
know.
I
Okay.
go walk through an airport. You would go walk through an airport and just look
Yeah.
at the people in the waiting area. I mean,
Yeah.
98% of them, unless they're like 100 years old, are sitting there like this. And I've been guilty of that too. I got to be honest. But
I know. I know,
that's
me too.
that's
Yeah.
the that's the
Yeah.
reality is we are all literally addicted to our phones and whatever
Mhm.
else. And it's just gonna it's
Mhm.
it's just going to get more and more um, it's going to go more and more that way. And I think a lot of people are going to suffer from mental health issues from that. I really do. I think that
Yeah.
is the unfortunate downside of this. One of. I mean, for any upside, it is. I mean, like I said, I'm thankful that I sleep in a warm, air conditioned, heated house. Technology has been wonderful, but there is a point when, like I said, there's a point where I don't know. I don't know where it becomes too much.
Yeah, this is definitely gonna this question is not gonna be answered anytime soon. I think we're gonna see as this unfolds, we're definitely gonna see more and more. Okay, what are the outcomes? How is it affecting people? Technology in general. I mean, like I have a friend whose vision is pretty bad because she's worked so much on computers with
Mm.
graphics and things like that, and it really has affected her and everybody who worked with her in this particular job. Everybody was wearing glasses because of screens, right? So, I think there's definitely a lot of upsides, but also a lot of, detrimental effects from what we have in this day and age.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
I saw Elon Musk tweeting out the other day. He said that, in the future, everyone will be wealthy. No one will have to work. We'll have all kinds of resources. Robots will be doing everything for
where
us.
is he getting that?
I don't know. I mean, you think about it, it's like, well, how many robots would it take to replace all human labor? And it's not that many, actually. I mean,
Mhm.
they could produce, as you look at the car
Yeah.
production, and robots are probably take a fraction of the time to produce as a car does, and material. So you could do that. And then all of a sudden, you've got all these robots cleaning your house and making your bed and cooking you dinner and driving you everywhere. Then it becomes, what is my purpose in life? And do I just, like 200 years ago, if you had to go to get supplies, I mean, you load up the horse and wagon and you
Mhm.
trudge through the mud and the snow and the sleet or whatever. Now you're like, okay, I can just call an Uber and have somebody bring me food. I mean, that is progress undoubtedly. And there's obviously some of it turns into excess and obesity and the disease of comfort. But I mean, I think we'll be going there where humans are required to do less and less to survive. And it's not hard to survive in the modern world. I mean, you think about, 500 years ago, you want food, you got to go kill an animal, you got to go plant a crop, whatever it might be.
Mhm.
These days, I mean, you just take your phone and swipe right. And you got friggin' somebody delivering food to your house in 10 minutes. Then you got the robot that'll open the door and bring you your food and, maybe even feed it to you. You just sit there, just with your
Yeah.
mouth open playing your video game while some robot is feeding you your meal. I mean, it's like, where's
Yeah.
it going to end?
Do you remember those breath strips that you like, I remember, the comedian Ellen did a bit on this where she was talking about breath strips, and how we've gotten to the point where you don't even have to chew your breath mint anymore. You just open your mouth and like somebody lays it on there and it dissolves, right?
Interesting. I don't remember that one, but
You're
anyway.
well, it was so funny because it was like, this is how bad it is that people can't even chew their breath mint, right? Their TikTok. It's literally a dissolving strip. And so, I think there's this tension between the human need to accomplish and work and have purpose, and then the tendency toward inertia and laziness. And what I think AI is addressing, and I think what you're hitting on, is how do we maintain the tension between those two without going full swing in one direction? Because the 500-year ago model wasn't ideal, and the current model isn't ideal because there is a trend uh, toward sedentary lifestyle and obesity and not accomplishing anything having everything done for you. I don't think either one is ideal. And so how do we get to that balance? How do we maintain that balance? And I think that's going to be a big question going forward. And I think a lot of your listeners, a lot of our audience are thinking about those things. And it is important that we keep thinking about it and keep our finger on the pulse of it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 4 kids. They're all teenagers basically. My oldest
Mhm,
is 19. My youngest has turned 13, and it's like, what do you tell them to do with the rest of their life? I mean, with this looming in the future, it's like, hey, go into engineering. Robots are going to replace that. Go into
mhm,
this or that, and it's like, you kind of like, what do you? It's just a weird time. If we truly get to a point in the next 10 years where robots are doing a significant amount of the labor on Earth and replaced a lot of the white collar jobs, a lot of the entry engineering jobs.
mhm.
What do you do? I mean, what do you plan for? Is everybody going to be a YouTube star? I mean, what is, an influencer?
Yeah,
Um, it's like, how do you
yeah.
navigate that world? I don't know. And are we going to see, even the poorest of poor countries being overrun with robots, and are they
Mhm.
all going to be lifted up out of the crushing poverty that they're
Yeah.
currently experiencing?
I don't know, I think the robots are gonna be stripped for copper if we send them into some of these countries.
Well,
So
we'll see. I mean, you think about, well, maybe I'm going to be like, I'm just thinking about, like, we've had some little trials and tribulations at the house. Like, we had a flooding, we had a shower break and damage the walls, and we had our internet go out through a power surge. It's been kind of interesting, and we've had some people come over to help fix some of this stuff. Like, we had to get our, the water mitigation team in there, ripping
mhm,
out the insulation and stuff like that. But I imagine, 5 years from now, it might be one guy and he's got a little team of robots in there, and the robots are in there doing all the labor, and he's just kind of hanging out, supervising, shooting a breeze with the owner. I know, what was it? Elon Musk is talking about his little robo taxis that he has, his cyber taxis or whatever. It's like, yeah, you
mhm.
just own your own. You buy your taxi, you own it, and then let it go to work for you. And that's what it's your employee. It does all the work for you. So
I mean, the self-driving, full self-driving in Tesla is a thing. There's
mhm.
Tesla taxis in a lot of cities now, and
Right, right, yeah.
but, I'm trying to imagine a scenario where a robot is going to do fine finish carpentry, but maybe they will, I don't know. I just there's some skills that it's hard for me to imagine a robot coming to your house and doing that. But I don't know. I mean, growing
Well,
food.
I think what'll happen is you'll have the craftsman initially overseeing that, right? Like saying,
Mhm,
"Hey, okay, because a craftsman, what is he doing? He's bringing in tools anyway. He's got to have, saws, drills, the various tools that he utilizes. So the robot just becomes an extension of that. It
mhm,
becomes a more precise tool, and it can probably, with its vision, calculate everything, and then say, okay, we need to make this cut like this. I need a 27-degree cut here. I need this, that,
mhm,
and does it. And, you know, I think it's going to be very inevitable. It's going to happen. And then the question is, does that lead everybody else out of a job and in poverty, or does
mhm,
it lift up humanity, as guys like Elon Musk seem to think it will? I don't know.
mhm.
I don't know.
I
I
I
think
yeah,
I
this
I think the people that own those companies, their goal is not to lift up humanity. Their goal is going to be, hey, I can do this on the cheap, right? I can do this on the cheap and make more money. So it'll certainly
Yeah.
benefit the guys that are
Yeah.
the very top
Yeah.
levels of those companies. But I mean, as far as
Very
everybody else, I don't
interesting,
know.
very interesting. Well, speaking of money, this is the time when we take a little break. We're kind of past that time, but let's take a quick break and give thanks to some of our sponsors and remind people how they can continue watching and tuning in. The first thing I want to remind people is that if you did not get a notification, if you're coming back on the replay, please sign up for the email. We do send out an email before we do these shows. And if you go to my website, marygracemedia.com, you can get on the email list and you can get notified so that you don't have to depend on these platforms to give you notice that we're going live. You can also find some of the products that we talk about here on on the on that website. A couple other things. Let's see, Rivero. So we've talked about it a little bit, but go ahead, Dr. Baker. Let's give
Yeah,
your
yeah. So anyway, and New Year's coming up. So Rivero.com, we are a medical team that is dedicated to treating root causes of disease, to getting you off medications, to putting your disease in remission, to helping you lose weight. We provide, basically round the clock support. We have physicians that are licensed in all 50 states. We have a healthcare team that is there to help you. I see all the patients myself. This is kind of cool. I have a meeting
Mhm.
twice a week, and we get and I may do more if we get more, depending on more patients we end up getting. But anyway, it's a lot of fun. And the best thing is, this is a thing you do to get healthy, and we give you the tools to go forward so that you don't need to, you shouldn't need to see the doctor anymore, except for things like emergencies, which is, and then maybe a robot doctor by then anyway.
The next thing you know, people are gonna be saying, "Well, I signed up for Rivero, and I went online, and a robot showed up at my house." Uh,
No, we're
um,
not. We're not robots. We're real people for now.
so that's good. We're and you're watching real people. This is not AI right
No.
now. I'm really sitting in my studio. Dr. Baker is in his studio, and we're talking to you about real things. And one of our favorite real things is we have a sponsor that we love, and these are guys that are right in the middle of America. And this is our friends over at griddownchowdown.com. They have a fantastic product. They have a freeze dried American grown, American processed beef. And this is cool. It's something that's very close to Dr. Baker's heart, which is supporting American ranchers and farmers and helping that industry to thrive. So when you go to griddownchowdown.com and you use promo code Mary Grace, you're going to get a little savings. You can also do their subscription. And this is freeze dried beef. They have jerky, they have hamburger patties, they have other things. But when you put water in this is like buying a pound of ground beef. And you can buy a multi-pack. You can do subscriptions. Keep in mind that this is a boutique company. This is a family-run company. They may not have the fast turnaround times that you get with these big box companies, but they are going to they're gonna treat you well, and you're dealing with Americans in an American company, and you're helping to preserve American farm and ranch land when you support them. So it's griddownchowdown.com, promo code Mary Grace. We have something else that we were talking about, Dr. Baker. I've got an answer to our question about the meat sticks. So this is something fun. We have some guys that I recently met who have a company called Lean Nutrition, and they sent us some samples. This is the thing. Dr. Baker gets goodies in the mail all the time. And so we were able to try these meat sticks, and it's called Lean Sticks. And meat sticks are big. I mean, they're really, really big in the market right now for people who are on the go, who want, lean protein, things like that. And I have an answer to your question. So this green meat stick right here is this is beef. This is all beef, and with there's no other meats in it. And then the sweet heat one has a little bit of pork in it. So if you're okay with beef and pork, this one is good. It has both. And then the green one, just the original, is just beef. And so, and you can go on their website and check out the other ingredients, but it's leannutritionco.com. And these are, they sent us these. They want us to try them. My dad loves them. And, I give him his little charcuterie with his meat sticks, and he likes it. So, but you guys tried it there at the house, and your wife's not into pork. But
Yeah, I tried one of them. I can't remember. And I read it had pork, and says, "Oh, my wife can't have these." And so,
okay,
but it tasted fine. I mean, it tasted
yeah.
good. I mean, it's
So
um, you know, I mean, yeah, you're right. Meat sticks are incredibly popular right now,
yeah.
and so there's all kinds of companies come out. And this one, I think I guess they call themselves lean nutrition because they're a little bit leaner than some of the other ones might be, I suppose.
Yeah, so high protein. So if you're looking for a good meat stick, we wanted to give these guys a shout out because they are a US company and they're doing good things and helping support the space that we're in. And so, give them a try. I don't know if you can get them in time for stocking stuffers, but I'll tell you, meat sticks are a really good stocking stuffer or a New Year's present. But go check it out because we were really happy to get those samples from those guys. And let's see, one more thing I wanted to remind people, sometimes we don't talk about supplements a lot, but some people do find the need to supplement. Maybe your doctor's recommending some things, your functional medicine doctor, that is. And so if you are feeling the need to supplement, please, please be careful where you purchase those. I do have a store where we work directly with the manufacturers. So if you're looking for your B complex, your multivitamin, your selenium, things like that, please be careful of your sourcing. Go directly to my Mary Grace Essentials store. It's marygracewellness.gethealthy.store. It's also on my website, marygracemedia.com. Go check that out. 10% off for new customers, free shipping, subscribe and saves. You're going to get the same benefits as a customer from this store that you would from the big boxes, but you're going to be sure of the source because we work directly with the manufacturers. And so again, go check that out, Mary Grace wellness.gethealthy.store. Okay, so let's get back to our show today. We did have some questions, and I think we want to make sure we get some of the questions. And we had a couple in the beginning, but in the somebody had a funny comment about the meat sticks. So, did we had a question, we had some questions early on, and then people we told people to wait and go and come back, um, with the questions, but we had a question about cholesterol, and then JC had a question about cancer, about the C word. Um, so if you wanna stick those back in the chat here, we'll do that. And, oh, here it is. I found it. Do you I'm gonna read his question. It's, for Dr. Baker. This is JC. He's in South Africa. "Hi, what do you tell patients who have stage 4 metastatic" oh, I just lost the question. Okay. "Metastatic ER plus hormonal cancer, breast cancer, who are told to stay away from estrogen-containing carnivore foods like beef." So if they have cancer, they're told, "Don't eat beef because of the estrogen." Breast cancer. What are you telling people like that?
Well, I mean, the reality is there's minimal estrogen in beef. I mean, this is, um, I mean, things that are going to be more estrogenic are going to be things like dairy products. Eggs are going to have higher estrogen than actual beef would. And then, of course, you can look at the phytoestrogen content. A lot of plant foods. I mean, like things like soy and peanut butter and some of these other ones are quite high in those types of things. I don't know how much of a difference it really makes. Now, metastatic, stage 4 metastatic disease, obviously the prognosis in many cases is pretty grim, because that means the cancer has spread throughout the body. Basically, it's past the lymph nodes, it's gotten into other tissues, and the outcomes often are unfortunately not good. I think that in general, I mean, and this is sort of callous a little bit back in the day I remember when I was training as a physician, we would sometimes, when I was doing general surgery, we had cancer patients, they would say that the treatment option was something called 6-PFP, which sounds like some drug name, but it really meant six pack and a fishing pole. I mean, it's like, hey, just go do whatever the hell you want, enjoy the last few years, last few months of your life, and just do that. And again, that's
Mhm.
probably not what
Mhm.
this person wants to hear. Um,
Mhm.
I think I would just maximize I would do all the things that would maximize my health, which you should be doing all of us should be doing anyway. Getting good sleep, eating a good diet, um, exercising, being active to the degree that you can,
Mhm.
and you can probably certainly improve your quality of life for however long you might have, and maybe put something into remission. I mean, I think some of the work, or in the ketogenic space around cancer has been quite interesting. I'd look at some of the work from guys like Thomas Seyfried and others that have been exploring this for a good decade or more, and seeing good results with pretty heavy ketosis in the setting of cancer. But as far as I mean, like for instance, like one of the concerns is a lot of cattle, particularly in the U.S. and other places that are finished out in the conventional system, are given estrogenic you know hormones to increase their growth to help them put on fat. And but the reality is that, like for instance, I'm a man. As a man, I have some estrogen in my body. My adrenal glands and some other tissues produce estrogen in a small circulating amount. And to have the same amount of estrogen that I naturally produce, I would have to eat the equivalent of 27 entire cows a day. Like I'd have to eat 27 entire cows, and I think about that. That's
That's
it
a
would it
lot
would
even
it
for
would
you,
it would
Doctor
take me
Baker.
15 years to eat 27 cows, and I eat a lot of meat, and
Yeah.
so it's minuscule. I don't think it's realistically something to be worried about, honestly.
Okay. Thank you. JC said thank you. And we do have questions coming in now. Do you see the glucose question, glucose for muscle? Um,
Let's see. I see somebody saying hello from Nook, Greenland. Oh, that's pretty cool.
right before that. Okay, so what about glucose for muscle? Is
Okay.
keto enough to create enough to keep muscle full and hydrated?
So what about glucose for muscle as enough to keep? Well, yeah. I mean, you can. I mean, you might have to augment your hydration. I mean, if you're talking about just hydration, I mean that's just sodium and water. I mean, a lot of times you can, um, like what I'll do. Like if you want to get like a pump in the gym, and a lot of people say without carbs they feel flat. It's not the carbohydrates per se. It's not like the two bananas you ate, they're actually going to your muscle. I mean, yes, you can
Mhm.
slightly alter your glycogen content of the muscle, but it's really the water. And so the water is going to be basically what's sticking to your body. What makes it stick is outside of carbohydrates is going to be electrolytes. So you can certainly do a ketogenic diet. I mean, there are a number of ketogenic bodybuilders that do very well, can put on muscle, can be very, very lean and very muscular with doing that. The other thing is, um, protein provides a strong enough insulin signal that it leads to muscle protein synthesis. You don't need carbohydrates beyond that. Now, carbohydrates are valuable for training in many ways. I mean, we shouldn't deny that, but are they necessary? And can you get those same benefits, other ways? And the answer is generally yes, you can.
Okay. So thank you. We have another question from John on YouTube, and then we'll go to Carl on Facebook. So, Dr. Baker, what's my best approach for liver glucose leakage? A tap weight was 367. I'm at 185 now. Diabetes reversed, still struggling with insulin resistance. I'm not sure I understand that question, but you might.
Well, I mean, you have this hepatic production of glucose. The liver is producing glucose. It stores in the form of liver glycogen. When it then gets broken down in response often to things like glucagon, which leads to elevated blood glucose. And then also you have this, ongoing gluconeogenesis, which occurs regardless of what diet you're on. There's people that are saying, oh, you don't want to do a low carb or a ketogenic or a carnivore diet because of gluconeogenesis. Well, the reality is gluconeogenesis occurs at a very steady background rate, regardless of your diet. Your diet has minimal impact on that. It has a little bit bigger impact on liver glycogen, but not much on the gluconeogenic part. Because some people say, well, it's stressful and it's dependent upon stress hormones. And that's actually not true either. But the thoughts on, again, things like how much insulin are you producing? This is something that I think is interesting, for someone who is, you said weighed 367 pounds or something like that to start, probably very insulin resistant, probably had some of the diabetic pathophysiology. Maybe you had impaired beta cell function. Because what is insulin doing? It is, you know, shutting down endogenous glucose production a little bit.
Mhm.
It's leading to glucose exiting the blood and entering the tissues. And so, maybe you have impaired uh, insulin production, perhaps. I mean, it might be something worth testing. You can do that with things like a C peptide, or particularly a stimulated C peptide test, where you go in, you either have a mixed meal challenge before it, and you see how much your C peptide is secreting. That's something that could be due to assess this. I think that as far as when you're saying your liver is leaking glucose, assuming it means your blood glucose is rising, I assume that's where you're getting at. Is it a consequence of beta cell underperformance, and you're just not able to counter that with beta cell secretion, or is it you still have some insulin resistance and you don't have an upregulation of, say, the GLUT4 receptor on your muscles, which is insulin dependent way to suck glucose back into your muscles. Exercise can help that. I don't know what I don't know if you're exercising. I assume you are. If you dropped 200 pounds or close to that, but that is something that you can look at. I mean, if you start seeing like what does it look like in the post-exercise state? Do you have better glucose control? Then that might give you an idea that it's more of a resistance problem. It can always be a combination of the things. By exercising, we upregulate the expression of these GLUT4 receptors on our muscle, and then we're able to dispose of more glucose. So if you're not exercise. If you're not getting good sleep, make sure you get good sleep. Um, you know, Hard to tell from just a simple question there without a kind of thorough analysis of what might be going on. But there are things you can look at and test.
Mhm.
I would, educate yourself on the impact of, beta cell suppression, depletion, insulin sensitivity with exercise and other aspects of your diet and lifestyle. And those are the things I would look at.
Excellent, thank you. So we're on Facebook. We have Carl. So, cholesterol question: regardless of said good number ranges, isn't the big Y result we care about arterial blockage, which can be measured, while the cholesterol measurements are X's to that equation? And
Yeah,
there
right.
and there's a current debate about the true equation if we really have the right X's being measured. So, arterial blockage, that's really, I guess the question is, isn't that the key? Like, what can we measure in the body that's actually being blocked or hardened or stiffened or things like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the outcome of concern is obviously the cardiovascular system itself. When we're talking about, generally we're concerned about cholesterol. There's other things that might impact, but that's the major concern. And so, risk factors do not equal disease. Not all, being a man is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Being older is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Not all older men have cardiovascular disease, just like not all people with high cholesterol have cardiovascular disease. Now there's averages and trends and those types of things. And some things are within your control and some things aren't. I think that, I mean, when we look at it on a population level and we say, we recommend that on average, the average person should lower their cholesterol on a population average, and that should lead to a less likelihood of cardiovascular disease. And you can debate about whether that's true or not, but that's, what the general recommendation is. But on an individual level, there's a wide range of variety, and the problem is it is challenging to sort out the individuals. From a just from an overall medical practice standpoint, like so the global practice of medicine, it's just tough to say we can make recommendations for 100 different recommendations for 100 different types of people. They don't do that. They don't, and most physicians don't have the time or the interest or the knowledge to do that. So it really, again, once again, it comes down to you being your own advocate
Mhm.
and finding out where you fit exactly. And you are right that imaging, gives you a better outcome measure. There's people out there saying, well,
Mhm.
you don't want to wait till you got cardiac. You don't want to wait till the arteries are already blocked before acting. We should act earlier. And what should we act upon? And that's debatable. I mean, I certainly think that most people would agree losing excess body fat would be a good thing. I think everybody would agree if you're diabetic, not being diabetic is a good thing. Everybody would agree that lowering your blood pressure is a good thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I think the problem we get into is this thing about cholesterol. And there's just, for whatever reason, no one complains about improving diabetes. No one complains about lowering blood pressure. No one's out there saying, oh, they just want to try to lower blood pressure because they want to sell more pills. I mean, to a point. But with cholesterol, we seem to think that's the case. And why is that? I'm not sure. I mean, maybe because maybe it isn't the cholesterol. Maybe there's enough data that makes it questionable. And I think there is. I think there is, or it's more nuanced than that. I think if you tell people, if you say, hey, your total cholesterol is above 200, I think you're at risk for heart disease. There's going to be some quibbling. If you go in there and said, hey, your systolic blood pressure is over 200 and your risk for stroke, I don't think anybody would complain about that. I think there's no one that would say, oh, it's fine, 200 is fine.
Mhm.
So, I mean, for some reason, there's this disagreement in there, and I think there's a reason for that. I mean,
Mhm.
I think there's actual disagreements in the data, and so I think we have to sort of say maybe because persons X, Y, and Z respond one way, where persons A, B, and C respond another way, and we have to sort it out. And so your doctor's not going to do that for you most of the time. You have to have some, or at least unless you have a very motivated doctor that's really educated about this and wants to take the time. But again, corporate medicine doesn't support that at all. It's not how they make their money. It's not how they do their business. It's not cost effective for them to do that.
Um, okay, so I'm looking for more questions. In the YouTube chat, I'm not gonna read it out, but there are some people talking about some things that have been effective with, cancer, and JC is probably aware of some of that, so maybe check out the chat there. Um, let's see. Um, I think we're I think we're or do we have any more? Do we have any questions? We have a type 1 diabetic here in the chat, which is interesting on Carnivore on X. That's always interesting. And, have you dealt with that? Do you have any patients who are type
Yeah,
1
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
diabetes?
absolutely. I've seen type 1 diabetics many, many times over the years doing low carb keto carnivore, particularly carnivore, and have done quite well with type 1 diabetes. I mean, it doesn't cure the type 1 diabetes, but what it does is it leads to much better glucose control, generally much lower insulin requirements, which
Mhm.
again, generally are associated with better outcomes. So I've seen actually people reversing some of the effects of diabetes, like people that have retinopathy in their eyes, where their eyes are starting to, have to go in there and get laser treatments in their eyes.
Mhm.
The retinopathy gets better. We've seen people,
Interesting.
obviously lose weight.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's wonderful for type 1 diabetes. I think
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
really, really helpful intervention for that particular group of
Interesting.
people.
Okay, we have, we have a question about the vegan army. Um, I've seen some vegan activists constantly berating keto and carnivore, linking it to cancer. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are the number one killer, the number one and number two killers of vegans is cancer and heart disease, right? That is what vegans and vegans die of. Number one and number two, heart disease,
Interesting.
cancer, just like everybody else. It doesn't protect you,
Wow.
doesn't make a difference. In some cases, the cancers are vegans have higher rates of certain cancers than other
Mhm.
groups.
Mhm.
That's been proven and shown in numerous studies across the board.
Mhm.
Vegans still get cancer. I think, you know, here's what I would say. I think the outcomes are important here. And I think diets are a tool to that outcome, just like exercise is a tool, just like sleep is a
Mhm.
tool. And, what we care about is the outcome there. And I can tell you that when we look at like outcomes based upon diet, it's really hard to draw those conclusions because it's so damn near impossible to know what the hell people have eaten over the years. I mean, it's like, if I said, Mary, what made up, could you tell me how much bread you ate in 1987? You wouldn't know. I
Mhm.
mean, so I don't know. I can't remember that stuff. I can't even
Yeah.
remember, I mean,
Yeah.
I know because I just basically eat meat all the time. I'm like, okay, I know what I ate for the last 10 years. But prior to that, and this is what most of the data is. So it's very unreliable data. And
Mhm.
then, but you can certainly look at like certain other things that are not unreliable, like your body weight. I mean, your body weight is what it is. It's not easy. It's not hard to know what that is. If you are 100 pounds overweight, it's not a mystery. It's not like, oh, we couldn't know that. We couldn't tell that. It
Mhm.
wasn't us
Mhm.
guessing. We can just hop on a scale, see what our weight is, and that number is pretty
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah.
So when those associations are much stronger
Mhm.
because they're accurate, but dietary associations, because they're so poor. You look at like food frequency questionnaire validation studies where they say, well, we asked people to remember what they ate for the last 6 months, and then what we did was we actually studied what they ate, over a period of time, and it wasn't even close to matching. And if it got within 50%, we consider that good concordance, and we consider that a valid study
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
or validated questionnaire. But the reality is that they're way off. So it's like
Right, so it's all anecdotal.
the
Doc
dietary stuff is not very,
Dr.
um,
Baker, we do have a listener on YouTube who can tell us how much bread they ate in 1987.
awesome. Probably
So
0. I don't know
let's
what
not underestimate let's not
yeah,
underestimate our listeners.
yeah.
Um, somebody says, "I know a vegan who had a stroke." I do too. I know a vegan. One thing here's something that I've noticed about vegans, and this is anecdotal, but just observational, is that they tend to as a whole, as a group, I notice they tend to be pretty uptight and higher anxiety, and also a little bit didactic. And I can see I've seen some of that in the carnivore community where people are so focused and so almost bordering on orthorexic about their diet, but it just seems like the ones that I've known in the vegan community, that is a pretty common denominator, either that or lots of brain fog. So like high anxiety, but also not super high functioning, how and a lot of brain fog. But that again, that's just observational. It's not like I hang around with a lot of vegans, but they're also very much um very um I want to say rigid sometimes about their way of eating. So you
Well, I mean,
know,
a lot of them, they've attached an ideology to this, and I caution people
right.
about doing that
Yeah.
with the carnivore stuff, and we have. I mean, we've gotten people that have become dogmatically carnivorous, and the belief is that all humans are meant to be carnivores, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, I wrote the book, The Carnivore Diet. I'm a huge carnivore advocate, but
Mhm.
and I even say in the book, humans are omnivores. I mean, that's the reality. I
Mhm.
mean, if that
Mhm.
were not the case, we would not have people living to 100 years of age eating an omnivorous diet. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And to say, oh, they're secretly ill somehow, even though they live to 100 and we're in reasonably good shape. So, but I
Mhm.
do think a carnivore diet can be a wonderful, effective tool. I think, and I do think people can thrive on it indefinitely. I think that's also the case.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
but to get too dogmatic, and this is what happens with the vegans when particularly when they attach an ideology, a belief system, and an ethic, an
Mhm.
ethos to it, they start to think that, well, it's unethical to eat any other way. And
Right.
that's where the problem, that's where the sort of the mental health issues start coming in. And then you are absolutely right. Um, many people with mental health disorders choose a vegan lifestyle for whatever reason. And I do think that some of them, it impacts their mental health negatively. I think that's also the
We're
case.
we're getting some very funny vegan comments. I have to read one of them. "My car could fall apart, and I'm less stressed than a vegan with a small noise in the car." That's a g That's
Well,
good. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't hang out with a lot of vegans either, so I don't know. I mean,
So,
the
okay,
ones I've met in real life have been reasonably nice. So I mean, I will say that.
I'm not saying they're not nice, but there is a really very high stress level, and then of course like the ethical thing. So by the way, I put a link up here on the screen for people. I put together a shopping list on my Amazon store of carnivore diet essentials. So air fryer, things that people always find themselves wanting to
Mhm.
buy when they decide to start cooking more carnivore based, beef tallow, things like that. So you can check that out. But we do have a question from John on YouTube. My gluten for trans are working. I'm not sure what that means. Okay, are working good. Walking 3 to 6 miles. Dr. Robert Unger talks about the glucagon A cell and insulin B cells and how they work together to maintain insulin resistance. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a combination. So the alpha, we've got the beta cells and alpha cells in the pancreas. The alpha cells secrete glucagon, and beta cells secrete insulin. And what we often see, particularly in diabetics, is the insulin, it becomes less effective, and the glucagon maintains its efficacy for whatever reason. The alpha cells seem to be less affected by diabetic disease. And therefore, glucagon, whose role is to raise blood glucose, overdrives insulin's ability to lower blood glucose. And so we have this increased glucagon to insulin ratio, and that can lead to, like I said, rising blood glucose. And so sometimes, we see that in a low carb situation. The question is it actually pathological? And the answer is we don't really know yet for sure on that one. But it
Mhm.
is, uh, it's a part of the pathophysiology. It's very complicated. All the like I mentioned, the incretin hormones, GLP, GIP, also impact these hormones, and they're impacted by food, and then blood glucose modulates the impact of the incretin hormones on the beta cells. So there's a lot of things going on. It's a very complicated,
Mhm.
complex process,
Mhm.
much of which we probably still don't understand, to be honest. But glucagon is definitely part of that process when it comes to blood glucose and diabetes and diabetic
Okay.
pathophysiology.
We do have a question about budget, being a carnivore on a budget, on a low budget, the best way to do it, and this is in YouTube. So, best advice for doing carnivore on a very small monthly budget, $400 food budget per month. And I mean, ground beef obviously is one of the answers. I think we've talked about
Yeah,
this
yeah. I
before.
mean,
It
yeah,
doesn't
ground
have to
beef,
be grass
eggs,
fed.
buy on sale, buy in bulk. You don't have to eat grass finished. I mean, those are all things. I mean, when all said and done, if you do it that way, it's often cheaper than a standard omnivorous diet, quite honestly. I don't know where you live, but I mean, if you're in the US, you can still find ground beef for, some places 3, 4, $5 a pound. And, you know, I mean, for $400, you can buy, uh, you know, 70, 80, 100 pounds of that, something like that. And that's a lot of food.
It's a lot, yeah, and, some people too, I think I mean, I was at the store the other day and I actually saw chuck roast for 6 something a pound, which seems like it's gone down a little bit, and I haven't done this yet, but maybe some people have, that they're grinding their own, um, right?
Yeah,
Have
I
you
was,
done that?
I would, yeah, I've got a meat grinder at home. I know you've got the KitchenAid attachment you can do. Is I got actually a standing meat grinder, which I haven't used yet. Believe it, I bought it years ago and I just never got around to using it. But I was walking through Costco the other day and I saw they had chuck rolls, um, for like I think it was either $4 or 4.99 a pound, and that's
Is
pretty
that
damn
like a
cheap.
big
Yeah, it's about a
huge
25 pound hunk of meat, and you can dice. And I've got a video on my YouTube channel on how to cut that
Okay,
up. You can
okay.
make Denver steaks, you can make chuck
Mm,
steaks, you can make
mhm.
chuck roast, you can turn something into hamburger. So
So that's
yeah,
that's a really good price. Yeah,
yeah,
and I think those grinders, if you have a KitchenAid mixer or if you just go on Facebook Marketplace, it seems like you can find a very reasonably priced
mhm,
meat
yeah,
grinder.
yeah,
And so it is possible, and I think the idea of getting off of the standard diet, especially ultra processed foods, per pound, ultra processed foods are giving you crap nutrition
yeah,
and really it's very high price per pound if you look at, macro to macro with that. So we're coming up on time here, and I think that we've had a fantastic conversation today, as always. And I think this is probably it. Very interesting comments over on YouTube today. We're everywhere from like fart bags to iguanas to like
yeah.
stressed out vegans. But, it's always fun to read the read the comments. But I was gonna say I think this is it for 2025 because we've got Christmas coming
Yeah, I
up, we
guess
got
so.
New
Yeah,
Year.
I guess we'll see you next year.
Yeah, so the next time you guys are gonna see us is gonna be
Yeah,
next year, but
next year,
please.
World Carnivore Month coming up. That'll be the ninth annual one that we've done. I started that back in 2018, so I think it'll be the ninth full year that it's begun. So,
Is
um,
that January?
January 1st to January 31st, day
Okay.
of a month to eat meat. So it'll be a good time. We'll be talking
So
about that. We're gonna be supporting that at Rivero as well. So if you'd like to take the plunge and change your health, and you want some physicians to kind of help you, particularly if you're on medications, you need to get off medications. That's a great thing. I think we have a little bit of a discount sale right now for what we're doing there. So
okay, so
anyway,
that's over at rivero.com, and,
yeah.
also just being sure and support our sponsors here, give them some love, and if you're getting supplements, a reminder, go over to the Mary Grace Essentials, that's maryrgracewellness.gethealthy.store, make sure you're getting, the clean version of whatever it is you want, um, check out our Carnivore Essentials store, just, there's no need to load up on stuff you don't need though. So just
Mhm.
try to keep it simple. And one more shout out to our meat stick guys, Lean Nutrition. We have been pretty happy sampling that. And you can go there and grab those, leannutritionco.com. What else? Oh, as always, we want to remind everybody that as we were talking about technology and AI and all of this, get outside, touch some grass, talk to God, look at the sky, leave your phone in the house, leave all of your gadgets in the house. And one thing I've been trying to do, speaking of gadgets, is just wearing like my regular watch and not the not being wired with my watch, which is kind of nice, right? Because you don't have something buzzing and beeping and notifying you all the time. It's just a watch. So little things like that, and try to unplug. And wherever you are, if you can do that, that would be great, especially going into the holidays. Any last words, Dr. Baker?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, enjoy the holidays. I wouldn't stress about them too much. I mean, what you need, make sure you're developing those habits that you can afford to, relax a little bit once in a while. I think that's fine. I think that's actually healthy at the end of the day. But I did see a comment. Somebody talked about their PSA dropping from 9 to 3, which is fine.
Mhm.
I mean, that's great. I mean, that just shows less swelling, inflammation, irritation of the prostate, which is a good sign, and that's on a carnivore diet. I think that's something to be to just
Excellent.
see things we expect to see. I think I'm going to take the day off of lifting day. I was going to lift after this, but I think I'm just going to chill with my wife tonight
Oh,
and just hang out, watch a show.
you
I
can
got
watch
to
the playoffs,
who's the playoffs of
college football playoffs.
okay.
Bama, Oregon is playing JMU. I went to grad school at JMU. But sometimes they're not really my team. Virginia's my team. They
Mhm.
they tanked in the, ACC final, so they're not in the
I see.
playoffs.
Okay, I haven't been paying attention to college football, so my I don't know where's Texas at. I don't know.
Or Oregon's in the playoffs. Is Texas in the playoffs? It's very controversial this year because
Is it?
teams that, should have gotten in the playoffs didn't, and some people are feeling like it's sort of a DEI playoff, and they need to go to kind of a Sweet 16 type of bracket, but we'll see. I mean, it's kind of college football playoff weekend, so, we'll see kind of quarterfinals, but, yeah, maybe just watch a show. I'll tell you who I've been enjoying, if you're watching a show with your wife, is any movie with Sandra Bullock from, like, the past, from, like, 10, 15 years ago. Her movies are so funny and nothing woke about them. Just good movie, just a good movie. Find a Sandra Bullock movie.
Like Speed or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or another good one was the, Night and Day with, Cameron Diaz and what's his name? Tom Cruise. That's a good movie.
I didn't
Um,
see that. We got Indiana Hoosiers, Ohio State Buckeyes, Georgia Bulldogs, Texas Tech Red Raiders, Oregon Ducks, Ole Miss, Texas A&M Aggies, Oklahoma Sooners, Alabama Crimson Tide, Miami Hurricane, Tulane, and James Madison. No
yeah,
Texas.
it's
Okay.
crazy. Yeah, no Texas. And, like I said, it's just like a crazy mishmash, weird playoff. And who knows how it's going to go?
Interesting. Well,
No,
it's
I know.
interesting that Indiana got the number 1 seed, so that's pretty
Well, because
insane.
Indiana, I mean, they upset Ohio State, and their quarterback won the Heisman. I do
Interesting.
know that.
I have not paid attention this year. I've been so focused on my own stuff.
Dr. Baker,
Trying to get better at my own sports, yeah.
here I am I'm filling you in on college football.
Yeah, I didn't this year's not been a big one for me to pay attention on, but I
Yeah,
just
so
saw the Texas. I know they had, what's his name? You know, what, who the hell's the quarterback? Manning, Eli Manning, Arch Manning. Yeah, I don't know if that's Archie Manning's grandson or something like that, and
yeah.
maybe he's been
Well, I
overrated,
mean,
something like that.
Michigan, ever since, Michigan lost their coach to the pros, they haven't been doing that great, but I will say, just, completely unrelated, total girl comment is that Ohio State still has the best looking coach in all of college football, Ryan Day.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know
Ryan
who he is.
Day.
Okay, well,
Just
I'll
saying.
take your
Yeah.
word for it.
Miss Congeniality, that's the movie with Sandra
Yeah,
Bullock. That's
okay.
a good movie. Yeah, if you wanna watch a movie with your wife.
Well, we'll see. I'll run it by her and see what she thinks. I'm sure she's ready for a break. She works hard. I gotta tell you, my wife is a hard-working individual. I'm glad. I can't wait till she retires, and
Oh,
hopefully that'll be soon, so
well, it's a good movie that doesn't require a lot of
a lot
input
of
or
brain power.
thought. Exactly, it's like you just sit there and laugh because it's really funny. Okay, so everybody have a wonderful weekend, have a great Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We will be back, um, next year here on,
All
um,
right,
Healing
2026
America
coming
and
up. Yeah,
Beyond.
I mean, I remember we were supposed to Y2K was supposed to kill us all, but we're still 26
We're
years
good.
later,
We're
so,
we're
yeah,
we're in the next we've just finished a quarter of a century, almost done.
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So,
Yeah.
I know, crazy, isn't it? And, we were going into the 250th year of America. I was at the bicentennial. Let's hear it for everybody who was at that. Now we're at the quarter millennial. Pretty amazing. We will see you all back here. Thank you again. Please do subscribe, hit the like button, share this, and please do subscribe to the email list so that you can get notified when we do go live again. And hopefully that will be very soon. Everybody, thank you for being here, and it's been a wonderful conversation as always with you, Dr. Baker.
All right, thank